Hi, welcome to the 8th video of C# Fundamental Tutorials. Now, before you continue to watch the number 8 video, I would advise you to go watch the videos from timeline 1 to 7 before you join the video 8. Alright? Okay, what we've talked so far, we've talked about variables, data types, subroutines, conditional statements, iteration statements, collection. We're still in classes, which I will break down to you in the nearest future, maybe in this video or in the next one, but we just see how it develops. Okay, and I believe you know where we are, which happens to be the print debugging log file, which we've talked about. We just did that on Windows on the 7th video, and now we're about to go to tool debug in Visual Studio. All right, so let's go write some codes. Okay, I'm going to show you into details what a tool debugging in Visual Studio looks like, how you can use it. So we've talked about the print and debugging, which is that one. So and the one we're talking about now is the tool debugging in Visual Studio tool. It's the tool in Visual Studio I use in debugging. So first of all, to run an application, you can either click the start button, which we've been doing all this while. I believe you've seen that, or you use the F5 key. I'm going to move this away a little bit. So when I press that start, it's going to start the whole application. Okay, it's been started. I'll close it. Now when I press F5, depends on how it's been configured in your PC, in your Visual Studio, not PC. When your Visual, depends on how you configure it. But in mine, it's configured in F5. When I press F5, it's going to run the application automatically. Brilliant. That's been done. And then I'll bring that back again. Now, there's special ways. There's special ways to go through to step into methods or lines of code, or step over line of codes, or step out of the entire code and run the application immediately. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to show you the step into, which you can use with the button, or you use with the F11 key word or key button. So let me move that away. I will. Before you do that, if you want to do this, you have to set what we call the breakpoints, which I set here. How to set a breakpoint is very simple. It's either you press F9 or you use your mouse. I'll show it to you. I can set a breakpoint here at the wall. See my mouse at the end here? I press just one time with the left mouse button. It's going to highlight it and set red, set everything red. So meaning when I run the application, it's going to stop here. It's not going to go through that place. It stops and remains here. So, but before we do that, I would want to take all of this out because we don't need them for now. It's all about debugging the application itself. So I'm setting a breakpoint here. And I'm setting a breakpoint here. So what is more important is this one. Sorry, let me put that one. So we'll go back here. I'm going to take all of these out because we don't need them for now, because we are interested in debugging. So we're not interested in writing the trace for now because I want to segment those two things from another. So I'll set a breakpoint there and set a breakpoint here. See, I want to talk about the step into, which is F11, or you use the key, the mouse. So I'll go back to program. This is the start of the project. I'll run this project. You see that project will stop here. It will not move. When I run, there you go. It stops here. It highlights it and turns to red. So now at the top, you have what they call the step into, which we are talking about. And then you have the step over, and then you have the step out, which I showed you. I will show you again. If I can bring my information back where it was, exactly. You have the top, step into, and then you have the step over, and then you have the step out. So for each of them, they have their different keys. You can use the F11 here, in my case. You can use the F10, in my case. And you can use the Shift plus F11, in my case, in this part. So it depends on how it's been configured in your PC or in your Visual Studio, sorry. So now let's step into this method. The method itself is here. I'm going to take away this breakpoint so it steps into this part. So without stopping, so I will go back to program and I'll say step into the method which is in the C# collection class, and it's supposed to be here. So what I do now is quite simple. I go back, I say step into, you see, it steps directly into the observable list right here. Okay, see where we came from? We came from program. He noticed that I said step into, and then it steps. We are in the at the program class, and then we stepped into the C# class in the observable list method. Okay, now I can step through this once because they are not classes being shown, so it's very difficult to step through things like a list or where you have the other class in there like add. You don't step into what is going to happen if I try to step through that. You get a warning message. It's not an error, but it's going to give you a warning message and telling you that sorry, I can't step into that. Look at that. So your step into request resulted in an automatic step over. It made them step over automatically instead of step into a property or operator, because these are not classes that are being recognized to be stepped through. They are of a library in a different in .NET framework. So we don't have the power to step into them. They are not classes that we see right now. So I say yes, I'm just going to avoid that. And in this case, this is where we come step over. I'm going to step over them because I can step into them. I don't have the method here in my classes, or I can't even see them live. So since I don't have libraries, the library code that organize all of that, so I'm going to step them over. So that brings us to the step over issue, which I wrote here. So you can step over some, sorry, that's the wrong one. You can step over a complete method. I'll show you that again. I can step over this method directly from this part if I don't want to go in there. But let's go back and trace this backwards, and then we step over on that one. Step over, step over. You have to step over right lines because they are not your codes. Step over, step over, step over, step over that one, and then step over this one. So if I want to go out here, because this will continue to add lines, I can just say step over or step out. When I say step out, then it comes out automatically. I'm out of that method, okay? And then I'll jump over here. So now I can go step over again and go read line, and then I said step over finally, and then I'm done. And then I have my windows, okay? Now let's see a step over in action in this form. When I say I don't want to go into that, into this method, I just run it, and I say step over. It jumps over. I'm not going into this method anymore. I just stepped over it. Brilliant. And then I say step over again, and then we're done. Okay? All right. That is that about step over. What do we have there again? We have the step out, which I just showed you. You can equally step out of a project just straight up, like when you just say step out, steps out of that method completely. So depends on what method you are. Let me use an example of that. Will be when I take out the breakpoint here, I go in here and set the breakpoint in this class, and I say run. It jumps into this part and say, you know what? I really actually want to go out of this place immediately. I'll just say step over. I found myself back to the very first place where he jumped into it. So I say step through, and then I run. Then you're done. Okay? Okay, that sounds clean. Then let's go see what we have there. Now we talked about the breakpoint. The breakpoints are very simple. There are two ways to set a breakpoint. So that you set the link with your mouse, or you use the F9, and you can equally use that to remove a breakpoint. Okay, I'll show you that again. Breakpoint is no other than setting the breakpoint in that form. When I click here, I set a breakpoint, or I just put my mouse pointer here and I press F9, then it's a breakpoint, or I toggle it again, but for the second time it's going to take a breakpoint out. Okay, now there's another way to set breakpoints. There might be a situation whereby you set breakpoints in so many areas and you want to take them off. Okay, let's assume I have a breakpoint here, and I'll go to the other class. I have a breakpoint here, and I have here a breakpoint, and I have a breakpoint here. And in this case now, I have about 1, 2, 3, and then let's go to program, 4 breakpoints. I want to take all of them out. It's very simple. I just press Shift, Control, and F9. Okay? Shift, Control, and F9. Do you want to delete all breakpoints? I say yes. It takes out all the breakpoints. Here, I don't have a breakpoint. Let me go back. They're all clean. They're out. Okay? Okay. That's all about breakpoints for now. Breakpoint continues when, yeah, we're done with that. No, not actually. There's still one other thing I want to discuss about breakpoints. That should be, let me think here. Condition. You can set a condition in breakpoint, a type of breakpoints called condition. You can set a condition and say, when that condition is true, the project has to stop. Okay. Now let me set a condition here. After highlighting the breakpoints, it will stop if I run the project now, actually. But if I don't want it, for that reason, before we start, I have to actually allow this trace project to be commented, to be added, or else we're not going to be able to see what we're trying to do. I'll join that in. You know, I commented them up before, so the trace are back. So I'm going to throw out my old trace. So now, meaning that if I am trying to put the breakpoint at a certain level, that when you get to that point, please stop. Don't just move. Because I'm giving you a condition. A condition is just like telling him, I'm giving him a statement. I said, okay, here I put a breakpoint, and I right click and I said conditions. I said, okay, in this case, I want you to stop when the info base here happens to be collection C# collection class. If you are in the class C# collection class, please stop. That means whatever I'm using here, the first class that calls it is going to stop. Here you see information. I'm using C# collection class, and this is the one that starts. It stops in this class. So let's go back here and put the condition back. I said, so if info base, that one is equals to equal to C# condition, please stop. So now I've placed the condition. When I run the project, you see it stops. It says, hello, I am C# collections. That is my name, and that's why you have to stop. So it stops. So what happens if we go and change the name in C# collections to C# collection 1? And here again, we do the same thing here, so that it doesn't find it. So I'm going to run the application. You see it's going to run. It's not going to stop. You see, it didn't stop because the condition is not true since I changed the name. Okay? So that is that. So if I want it in the way that I said, okay, if it's program, I can go ahead and change that again and said, okay, this condition has to be program. So I say condition. I said, no, I don't want it to be collections. I said, if you're program, please stop. So I say program. Okay, so I say close. When I run it, it's going to stop. So I found it. Oh, you are already in the program class. I'm going to stop. So it stops. That's how you can use condition. Condition are basically used most of the time when you are in a loop. Imagine when you are in a loop and you want to stop. So the best option, or the best way to do that is when you have a for loop. Oh, let's start from 0, and let's actually set this to 1000. Sorry, I wrote that wrong. 1000, and then we set what we call an integer, a variable here, and say position. And then is equals to the e, which is the integer type, which we defined formally, and then we click. We tend to add a breakpoint here. In this case, we're not saying you stop. If I run it, it's going to stop at the first integer that runs in here, but we're setting a condition. Actually, that's the point. So if I set a condition here and said, okay, stop only when position is half of the entire run-ins, and in this case I'm going to say 500. So when you're 500, I want you to stop. So you're going to see that in action when I run this. Okay, it's still running. Now it stops. It stops exactly at 500. Okay. Okay. What happens if I take off the condition, which was formerly there? I'm going to take it off. You can comment it out, or you can possibly just delete it and it's out completely and close it. It's going to stop at the first impression, which I have here 0 and here 0. So it stops because it's not a condition. There's no condition. So basically you will be needing this from time to time in terms when you drag or when you run into an iteration, and then you want to stop at a specific time in the iteration. Okay, so you might need that, and then you can set a second condition and say stop when I want you to be 500 or I want you to be 200. So it depends on how you use it, but you need conditions sometimes, because the bigger your project, the more complicated it becomes. Okay, all right. So I'm going to take this out. This was just a possible example for that of the condition, so you get the copy of the condition generally. Okay, for now I think we've had enough of let me bring that of printing print debugs into a log files, and then to debug in Visual Studios. These things will help in the future in terms of when you are going through lines and finding errors in your product or in your application and trying to solve them. With that, you can use all of this to address those issues. Okay, you know how to set a breakpoint, how to use the breakpoint, and etc. But if you don't, if you're having problems, you can ask questions. Okay, so that brings us to another point now, which is the main point that we are here, which happens to be the classes, which is C# classes groups, which we'll be talking about. We're going to be talking about the constructor. We're going to be talking about the structure, property, method, visibility state of a class, talking about the property, the method involved, and all the constants and etc. We're going to talk about inheritance in classes. We're going to talk about abstract classes, seed classes, override keywords, interfaces, static members, and of course constants. All of this we're going to be talking in our next video. I would say let's just watch out for it. If there is any questions about the past video, the one we just did right now, sorry, and every other past one, please don't forget to leave me a message or write me an email. God bless you, and see you in my next video.